Hey everyone, Andy Raffel from eTeknix, and this is part 3 in our January 2023 Q&A session. I'm about done now. We've already done 2 videos. If you haven't checked them out, check out Q&A part 1, Q&A part 2. For anyone who doesn't know, we asked you guys for questions on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook and Discord, and here we are answering them. We've got Brandon with us, who is my little testing guy. He does all of the testing, and yeah, we've got lots of questions to go through. But before we get into that, here's a quick word from this video sponsor. Hello mate, you alright? Yeah, just got all the bits for my banging new gaming PC. Just got to put it together. It's going to be so much better than yours. Oh, right. What did you get then? The latest Intel 12th gen processor, a feature-packed motherboard, and 32 gig of DDR4 memory. See? Miles ahead of yours. You realise that board needs DDR5 memory, don't you? Don't tell me you went and bought the wrong stuff. DDR4 is so 2014. I can't believe you was that stupid. What? No, you're joking. What should I get then? For me, I'd be looking at Corsair's newest Vengeance DDR5 kits. Or, if you're wanting that all-important RGB, then go for the Dominator Platinum RGB. Oh, you are a lifesaver. Thanks, but where can I find out more? By clicking the link in the description below, of course. And you call me the stupid one. Okay, part 3. Are you done now? Are you like me? Are you just exhausted?
Until the stream?
Yeah, so we've got a live stream going after we record this. For our patrons, if you're not a patron already, check out the link in the description below, where, yeah, we're going to be on stream for an hour or so, just, again, answering sort of any questions and also just talking about what's going on in the world of tech, products coming out, the industry as a whole and all that kind of stuff, but in a much more chilled manner. I'll probably have a beer on my desk. So yeah, right, let's get straight into it. So since electricity prices seem to be skyrocketing across the planet, is there finally a legitimate argument to be made for 80 plus platinum and titanium PSUs now being great long-term investments rather than just niche products? No. I think that's the short of it. You're always going to be expected to pay more for a platinum or a titanium power supply because the efficiency is better, it uses better grade quality components and is just geared ever so slightly different. To actually get the money back on what you've paid for, it's so negligible.
Yeah, it's like how much money are you saving by having the better power efficiency versus how much you spend extra.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at getting solar panels at the moment because electricity prices have gone through the roof. So, you know, on the same basis as this question. But there is, you know, a very distinct way of looking at your usage and working out what your payback time is. For a power supply, not so much because, yes, you'd have to measure your usage across like a year. Guarantee no one's actually done that for their specific computer system. And obviously, you know, you have periods in the year where a game will come out, so you'll spend more time on your computer because you're playing that game. Then you get the lulls where, you know, there's nothing that you're really doing. You're maybe playing the games not as frequently on your computer, that sort of thing. So your usage is going to go up and down. In the summer, you'd like to think people are out more, so they're playing the computer less, playing games less. In the winter, it's going to be higher. So even just trying to work out the differential between that is going to be difficult. Then once you have that, yeah, it's easier to work out because you can say, okay, product A being a gold rated power supply is here, product B being platinum or titanium is, you know, going to cost me more. The price difference is this. What am I actually using in terms of power? But then you've got to try and figure out how much power is actually being lost as well, which there's a lot of calculations to be done. And I'd like to think that the time spent working out all them calculations, you could probably just get in some overtime at work and buy the power supply and be done with it.
Yeah.
I get why people buy these higher rated power supplies, but generally speaking, the difference between a gold and a platinum or a titanium, the difference is so negligible compared to the price difference that there's just not really an argument for it.
Gold is kind of the standard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, now, like, I remember a couple of years ago, bronze was a standard, whereas the price disparity between bronze and gold got so similar that you were talking, in some cases, like £5 to go from bronze to gold. All right, maybe you should do that. You know, makes a little bit more sense. Whereas now, you could even argue, you know, that it's slightly... You can, in some cases, get a gold power supply for cheaper than a bronze power supply, depending on the brand that you're going for and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully...
So much to consider.
Yeah, hopefully that answers that one. So next one, best way to review a product. What would you start with? First example, a case or a monitor. I don't typically do monitor reviews because we do written monitor reviews, and I leave it up to Pete, who does all of our written content. And we actually have a spider by data color, goes onto the front of the monitor, measures, gamut, color, the calibration. And basically what we're looking for is when a brand says it conforms to this, does it actually? Because, it has to go through a variance of testing to be able to say it's DCI P3 or it's Adobe RGB, it's sRGB, however many percent and whatnot. But, are the results skewed slightly? So we do our own testing, just make sure that it conforms to that. And then we can base our decision on, yes, you should buy it because it actually is really, really good, straight out of the box calibrated, blah, 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 blah. Or if not, you'd have to go out and buy a spider and then calibrate it. So we don't do them. But cases, well, come on, you do all the testing. What we get a case in, what do we do?
I mean, the first and foremost thing you do is you look at it. Like, how does it look? That's the first thing you're ever going to do with any product is visually. And then after that, it's just a very unbiased look at how it performs.
Yep.
We do the exact same type of testing for every single one, and then we say, okay, this is where it stacks up. Yes. And then we say, this is where it stacks up compared to how it costs. Yep. And you base your review on that data. Yeah,
I mean, cases is a bit of a tricky one because we do testing, but for the most part, testing is one side of it. I'd probably say it's the weakest part of buying a case, purely because, yes, you want to make sure that it's fairly quiet, as well as, it's not completely throttled of airflow and stuff like that. Most cases these days all perform within the same realm. And generally what we find is a quieter case actually performs not as good, and then one that performs amazing is actually louder. And that's not really down to the case, it's more to do with the out-of-box fan setup. So if you were to put different fans in, it would perform completely differently because they're geared slightly different between 800 RPM and 2000 RPM, or 1400 RPM and 2800 RPM, which is going to be louder because it's, up in the sort of stack. So for the case themselves, there's not really much in it. It really comes down to, once all the testing's done, we build in it, we sort of see what it's actually like to be, a builder using this particular case, and we base a decision on that, how it looks, and, features as well, whether it's eATX, whether it accepts, power supplies up to this length, graphics cards up to this length, and all that kind of stuff. And there's no right or wrong with cases. Obviously, we have our opinion, but one case is going to be the right case for one person. Another one is going to be right for the next person. So some people like small form factor cases, some people like larger cases. It's, one of them. But we have our ways of doing things. Graphics cards the same. We get one in, we put it on the desk, we take pictures of it, we film it, we then test it. Once it's tested, we can then strip it down and look at, the teardown of it, what the makeup of the actual graphics card or even a motherboard is in terms of VRMs and phases and things like that. Then we can, put it all together, script it all, and then film something, as well as write a review for the website side of things. So I guess the process for every product is very similar, but each product segment or product category has its own unique ways of doing things, right?
All of them have their own quirks, you could say.
Yeah.
That makes it a unique experience in one way, but at the same time, you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's very...
aesthetics, features, testing, summarize.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers that one. Yeah. The same, but different, I guess. Okay, moving on from that one. Best thermal paste which also lasts long. So everyone has, I guess, their own, really weird, everyone has a favourite thermal paste, right?
Yeah.
I remember back in the day, I'm talking years and years ago, Arctic Silver was like the daddy, the one that you went to. Probably Arctic Silver 1 that was when I first started getting into this, really. Then it just sort of moved on from there. You have got Arctic Silver 5, 7, whatever it is now. I've used Noctua for so long, NTH1 and NTH2. They have different consistencies, different viscosities. We generally use NTH1 for most stuff, purely because NZXT. I think I said that twice actually. Noctua. Too many brands. Yeah. Noctua, NTH1 has a nice consistency to it. NTH2 is ever so slightly different. They perform roughly around the same. You could argue H2 does perform better. But they send it in abundance to us, tubes upon tubes of it for our testing. And we try to mention whenever possible that we use Noctua NTH1. And we just sort of use it because it's there and we know we can get hold of it. If we were to buy the stuff ourselves, I'd probably still use the same because I've used it for so long.
Yeah.
And then we use the little notch wipes as well for cleaning, and when we're doing like processor testing or even just cleaning up a GPU when we're looking at the PCB and stuff like that. But yeah, other ones are available. I've used like Delid, GC Extreme before and things like that. I mean, before you worked here, what would you have used?
Personally, I would have used an Arctic one because they perform perfectly adequately and they don't break the bank.
Yeah,
for what they are.
Yeah, I mean, there's arguments as well that you could use Thermal Grizzly, Cryonaut stuff, which is obviously liquid metal and things like that, which works in some cases and not for others. Don't be delidding your CPU and expecting to use one type when you can only use the other, and all of that. GPUs as well. So NTH1 I find is like the all-rounder. We can use it on GPUs, CPUs, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's why we use that. No other reason really. Okay, this is a bit of an off-the-cuff one. I'm still curious as to which you charge more, your phone or your car. So, I've got an electric car. I've got a Tesla Model 3, although an Amazon driver crashed into it because his handbrake wasn't working. He knowingly knew that the handbrake wasn't working, so thanks for that. So I've actually got a Model Y at the moment, which isn't too bad because it comes with free supercharging, so, swings and roundabouts. Although my nearest supercharger is like 40 minutes away, so it doesn't really help. I charge my phone every single day. I charge my car probably every 3 days, unless I'm just like trickle charging it to keep it topped up. That's about the long and short of it, really. I'd say most people charge their phones like when they go to sleep.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty common. Yeah. And I don't drive.
Yeah, and like anytime I am in my car, there's it's got wireless charging, so you just put the phone in there and it just keeps it topped up anyway. But then at night, yeah, you just plug it in because you never know what the day is going to bring you the next day, and you want to make sure you've got a full charge. Okay, is buying a powerful you'll like this one. Is buying a powerful GPU like the RX 6800 be bad if paired with an old CPU like a Ryzen 5 2600 OC? So I'm guessing, yeah, overclocked 2600 with an RX 6800, would it be bad if you paired them? Obviously, there's always going to be the whole bottlenecking issue and stuff like that. So I'm going to sit back and, yeah, let you answer this one.
It's a very interesting question because internally we've been having discussions about looking directly at bottlenecking, doing an investigation on it to see at what point, CPU-wise, do you need to upgrade to make the most out of your graphics card? Yeah. And in a way, you could look at the same data and take it as, okay, I have that CPU and I don't want to upgrade my whole system around a CPU. Yep. What GPU is going to be the best for me? Yeah, so I guess the general idea that we had was, yeah, testing with something like a 1600, Ryzen 1600, first generation, 2600, 3600, then, yeah, like 5600X. Something, we'd try and get comparative models of each generation. But then maybe, depending on how long it's going to take us, how many games we're going to test in and things like that, because it's all going to be based around gaming performance. Productivity, yes, of course, the later generation is going to perform better because it has new instructions, different ways of encoding, decoding, blah, 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 blah. There's always then the argument of between each generation, you could pair faster memory with it because the memory controller got better. Like first generation Ryzen sucked, like really, really bad. Second generation, better, still not great. Ryzen, 3000 series, even better. Then when we went up to the 5000 series, yeah, it was completely unparalleled, complete difference and stuff. And now obviously we're on the 7000 series, and it's compared to Intel, you could argue it sucks again because they've gone from DDR4 to DDR5. So it's just history repeating itself. Yeah. So there's that argument as well, but taking out that variable, because we all know that you could do that and that's going to lend itself to better performance because faster speed memory, tighter timings, Ryzen having the sweet spot of 3600 megahertz cache latency 16. But if we just focused on that CPU with that GPU, that CPU with that GPU, that CPU with that GPU, yeah, then we could hopefully clearly see a distinct difference of, using this processor, we are getting, 100% of that GPU raw compute power. Whereas when using this one, and, you could literally do that with the numbers, we are getting about 82% of the performance in comparison to the higher end CPU. So there's definitely, something there. The problem we've got is like, where do we stop? And we're probably very, very guilty of this, probably because it's my decision ultimately, but having, okay, we've got like a result for this, and this. Guarantee you someone's going to come into the YouTube comments like, why didn't you test this processor? So then we go, all right, let's test some more. Why didn't you test it? And there will always be the argument of, you didn't test this one processor that I've got. And
I'm really sad because of that. So then we go, okay, do we make it into like the ultimate thing, which then takes like sometimes a week, 2 weeks worth of testing.
Yeah, and folks, remember, I'm just one guy.
So yeah, we have to draw the line somewhere where we say, okay, we're going to do it this way. So I guess this is a good opportunity as any. Let us know what you'd actually like to see with that. Because on top of that, say we are looking at the 6800 with 4 different processors from 4 different generations. Someone's going to go, why didn't you test the 6700 XT or the 6900 XT? Why didn't you test NVIDIA? So do we do, again, an ultimate thing where we test multiple graphics cards with multiple processors, or do we do, a 6800 with 4 generations of processors and do that? And then we can make another video for, I don't know, RTX 4080 with 4 different processors, or this, and then we have Intel as well. I mean, we could make content like that just until we're blue in the face.
Oh, yeah, we could do infinite amounts of...
Yeah, because you have different variables. Yeah, when you've got, say, 100 processors that have launched over the last couple of years and then 50 graphics cards that have launched over the last couple of years, you think how many different combinations of that you could actually test. And then you've got, do we test it in 5 games, 10 games, 15 games, 20 games, 30 games? You could literally go on forever. And the annoying thing is when you're looking at that amount of testing, you never actually end up making the content.
Yeah, and we've already done a video looking at DDR5 memory speed.
Yep.
In that kind of testing, and that's already led us to see doesn't make a huge difference. Makes a little bit, not huge. We've already isolated that variable, making the rest of this testing a lot simpler for us.
Yeah, definitely. So we will do something, but I guess we need a little bit of feedback from you guys as to exactly what you want to see. So sound off in the comments, let us know, and we can make it happen.
And tell you what, if you really want to, send us a message over on Discord.
Yeah. There you go. Discord, link is down below as well. Okay, best value for money if you needed to buy a GPU right now. It's tricky. I mean, value for money, if we're talking just across all AMD, all NVIDIA, buy used. Yeah. But then you also have the argument of, value for money. Are you a competitive gamer? Are you a 1080p gamer? Are you a 4K gamer? There's different... you could argue that there is the same amount of value for money on a 3080 Ti as there is on a 6600 XT. They are completely different products at completely different ends of the spectrum, but in terms of the performance you get per dollar or whatever on that, and that could actually be very, very similar. But because obviously that's lower price, lower performance, that's higher price, higher performance. So I don't know, where do you draw the line with that? I think you can't really answer it.
Before you talk about value for money, you need to think what you need the value to be. What is your standard?
Yeah.
Because myself, I'm 1440p with 144 hertz.
Yep.
I want something that is going to push that as often as possible. So I want something mid to high end for that. If I've got a 60 hertz 1080p monitor, I can limit myself more.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, some people do lock their frame rate using VSync, G-Sync, FreeSync. However they want to do it. Other people like to just, let the frames run and stuff like that. And that depends on the type of person you are, the type of player you are, the type of game. And then, just like our other Q&A that we did, monitors come into it as well and things like that. That I just think it's such an open-ended question that it is different for every single person playing every single different type of game under different circumstances, different hardware, just...
different budgets.
Yeah, I just don't think you can answer it. I mean, you could argue, if we're talking, let's call it mainstream, value for money around the 6600 XT, 6700, now that they're coming back down in price and that was kind of the unsung hero. And we have got some content coming up on that as well. 3060 versus 3060 Ti versus 6700 and sort of seeing how that lies and stuff like that. That's, on the mainstream where you want to be. If you're on the higher end at the moment, sort of high-end 30 series are actually better value than the 40 series, but then you're losing out on features like AV1 encoding, decoding, DLSS 3, which makes a huge difference, the next generation of ray tracing and just raw compute power. But then have you got the hardware to go with it? So there's always the argument for value for money there. If you are going to buy something, do you have to buy other things to bring the level of performance up on your CPU and memory to match that of the GPU to get the very best experience from it?
And if you're an enthusiast, you've already decided you want the top stuff.
Yeah.
So there's not... You're asking what we think, but a lot of the time you already know what you want, so what we think is probably not going to change your opinion.
I'd say a lot of people, like, they look for self-validation as well, that
Yeah.
they come in and they go... I mean, we see it all the time on our Discord where people come in and they go, I'm, looking at this and then I'm also looking at this. They've already decided that they want this. And you could give them a million reasons not to buy that and a million reasons to buy the other. And they will literally look at it and just go, well, I'm going to dismiss everything you said and buy that anyway. So what was the point in even asking? Yeah. Fun.
Thank you for the question, though.
Right, do you think we're close to a mass usage of VR for productivity in tech, programming, content creators, etc., that sort of thing? No, I don't think either. I don't know, when VR was kind of announced, which is weird because VR has been around for so long in like theme parks and, stuff like that. But when VR was announced in the consumer sphere, talking... Oculus was like the first big thing, wasn't it?
The CV1 and the Vive came just after it.
I've got a CV2 somewhere. No, the development kit too. I got the DK2, yeah.
I've got the CV2 because that's the Rift S.
Yeah, and then I've got a Quest as well. And it's funny, I bought it and when I first got it, I was like, this is amazing. And I don't actually really play on it much.
Yeah.
But when all that was announced, at the same time you had, what was the Microsoft thing? HoloLens.
Yes.
And you had all that, and there was other things. I was more excited about augmented reality than I was VR.
For years, I've been excited about the potential for augmented reality. Like, the potential to have, like, multiplayer games. You go out to a field with your mates, and things are there that aren't actually there.
Yeah.
That would be an incredibly fun experience.
But you still get the sense of, like, feeling safe and secure and stuff like that, because you can see... the real world.
Yeah.
And I'd love to like run around my house like parkouring and stuff as I'm like killing zombies and things like that because I'm familiar with my surroundings. It's just there's something overlaid into the top of it. Whereas VR, I mean, you still get people who put it on for the first time and they're all and like all like this, and it's not a comfortable experience for a lot of people. You do get motion sickness and things like that. Augmented reality, you just don't get that.
It makes it weird too because in VR a lot of titles you're moving smoothly with like joystick controls like you would in any game. Half-Life Alyx is a great example of this. In real life, you're just standing there. Yeah.
I like them, the conveyor belt type thing. Like you get strapped in like a ring and you can sort of like walk around and stuff like because it adds an extra element, an extra sense to it that you're actually moving because when you're moving in a game like Half-Life Alyx and you're using controls, well, if this was real life, I would not be using controls. I'd actually be walking.
But then they do a good enough job of immersing you in that world that you kind of half forget about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, the beginning bit when you're up on like the balcony and everything, I remember doing that for the first time and I was like, whoa, like that. And you do get that element that I'm going to fall and then you realise, hold up, I'm in my living room.
VR tricks you so well.
Oh yeah. And there is a difference as well between VR games and games that are ported for VR.
Oh yeah.
So when you have a game that is literally just ported to VR, you can tell the very, very distinct difference between that and a game that's made for VR, like Half-Life Alyx. That is just tenfold better than a game that has been, made to work for VR.
Yeah, that makes a huge difference.
Definitely. And it just, it adds that extra immersive feeling to it. It doesn't feel as clunky and stuff like that. So, but when it comes to productivity and that, augmented reality, I think is better. You imagine you're a surgeon and you have this groundbreaking, procedure and you need to show someone. The problem is you're in Australia and they're in America. Everyone put on their things. We're all talking and that. Look down at the table and you can see a body. You start doing this like procedure, this operation and that, and everyone's looking along. Like, I think less gaming, but for like learning and things like that. Or imagine if you could implement Google Street View. That would probably work better in VR. But Google Street View, I've never been to Australia. I'm 90 years old. I've always wanted to go and, I've never had the chance. Pop, Street View, go for a little,
I mean, that's a thing, kind of.
It's just not there. Do you know? It's not.
It's got the Street View problem. It's photo quality.
Yeah. It needs to move on to the next thing. But I would hate to think how long that would take to go and film everything and make it, and obviously the world is ever changing and stuff like that as well. I don't know. Probably Elon will put up some satellites that will do it all for you or something, and then everyone will complain that he's spying on us. So, we got that to come, I guess. So, should be interesting. Okay, purely from a gaming perspective, is there any reason to stick with Windows 10 rather than just moving on to Windows 11?
Not really.
No, there used to be. because AMD performance used to be nerfed on Windows 11. That's all now fixed and everything. And then there was the whole thing of when they fixed it, but only on Windows 11 21 H2, whereas now there's 22 H2. But we ended up upgrading to that just because I think we took our eye off the ball and just did it. It was like, why is the performance so bad? And it was like, right, this is why. And yeah, we had to roll back and stuff like that. So
and now it's fine.
Now it's fine, yeah. Earlier adopter kind of stuff, I guess. You know, if you're going to be an earlier adopter, then you are going to have problems because you're basically beta testing it for them. And that's just the same with anything, hardware, software. Luckily, software is a lot easier to fix than hardware, but still the same sort of thing.
I say it about pretty much everything. There is no better beta tester than the public.
Oh yeah, because they do it for free, and you have a larger pool sample of people basically. So it's the same for us when we're testing graphics cards and that before they're like pre-release. We are doing the R&D for the brand just on a bigger scale. We go back to them and go, I think you'll find this doesn't work properly. They go, okay, let's feed it back. Right, there's a driver update. Retest everything. Thank you. Yay. We just did like 4 days worth of just testing and now we have to do it all again. Yeah, motherboards are the worst for that with BIOSes and stuff like that. It's just, the trials and tribulations of being a tech media reviewer and all that stuff.
It's not glamorous.
It's not. Okay, would you recommend sanding / delid of current gen AMD CPUs to lower their running temperatures? No, I wouldn't recommend delidding to anyone because it is a finicky thing to do. There are tools like the one that DeBauer made and everything that can help you delid, but it's at your own risk, right?
Yeah, we had a question before asking about overclocking, and it's the exact same thing. The only reason you should do that if you're like a hardcore enthusiast looking to break records, you're looking for not even like long-term usage, you're looking for quick, short bursts of ultimate performance. Yeah,
you're not like doing it and then running stability for like, 2 hours on end. You're literally like, right, I need to get a score screenshot done, and you save it quickly to a USB just in case the system turns off while you're doing these extreme levels of overclock, because that's what it's all about. So you can get it up on HW bot or whatever and claim that world record.
Yeah, you've got at most 5 minutes you're going to be running it like that if that's the kind of thing you're doing with it.
Yeah, exactly that. And then moving over to doing it on AMD, no. Intel is the whole thing for delidding, right? AMD is just a completely different ball game, completely different kettle of fish. You've always got the fear with any processor, once you've taken off the IHS, the fear of crushing the core, because there is nothing now between that and that. There was processors a few generations ago, was it a 10 series Intel, where they used subpar paste or liquid metal or whatever for actually underneath the IHS, and there was arguments for ripping it off. I think Devil's Canyon was the same, the 4000 series 4790K, for taking it off, reapplying, putting it on and seeing temperatures drop by like 10 degrees.
Yeah, because people were complaining it wasn't like a soldered IHS.
Yeah, there's always going to be stuff like that. And then there was it the 11th gen where they like rocked on the table?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because it was slightly like skewed, and there's always that. But no, I'd never recommend delidding for just anyone in general unless you know what you're doing. And I guess the biggest thing is only delid if you can afford for you to break that product.
Yeah,
because you have no comeuppance after that, like warranty void, done.
If you're delidding, you're probably in a lab.
Yeah, or you're just, I don't know,
mental.
You live life dangerously and kind of all that stuff
on the edge.
Okay, what is the least internet speed you need to game at your computer's limit in online shooters, and at what point will there be diminishing returns? You play kind of semi-fast-paced games, so you can kind of answer that one, I guess.
You can get away with as low as like 10 megabit, but you're looking at a bit of a juddery experience.
Well, generally, if you're on 10 megabit, I don't know how it works in other countries. I know most of Europe, you get like 1-to-1 download and upload.
Yeah.
In the UK, if you're on like 10 megabit, which is pretty rare these days, but it is still, if you're living in the middle of nowhere, your upload is going to be terrible, like 0.75 or so. So that's actually going to affect you more than the download, because it has to work both ways. Generally speaking, I'd say like you want an upload of a few megabit. 0.75 just doesn't cut it anymore.
I found that actually, I think people with slower internet connections, because as you said, their upload speed, at least over here, their upload speed is lower than their download. So they're receiving more information than they're putting out. Putting them at, genuinely, I have had this in games at an unfair competitive advantage because you're watching them jutter around and you're trying to shoot where they might be and they're watching you smoothly.
Yeah, they're like, you're trying to shoot a moving target while you're still, and they're just like, gotcha.
It genuinely can...
Depends on the game as well.
Advantage.
Yeah, definitely depends on the game. There's different variables to it and stuff. I'd like to think most people, if you're living in, not even just like, you know, a country that is, you know, of that standard where you're going to get fast internet, because, yeah, there are some, not third world countries, but sort of, you know, countries that aren't as prosperous as, say, the most of the Western world, the UK, Europe, and stuff like that, who actually have faster internet than we do over here, which is really weird. You know, a lot of Asian countries and things like that as well. Still amazes me when I go to Taiwan for like Computex and I can get full internet signal on my phone on the tube, whereas I can't even get it like at my house. You know, it's and you're miles like underground and stuff like that. Not miles, but you get the idea. So yeah, I think there is arguments for an advantage as well as a disadvantage depending on internet speed, but it doesn't mean the faster the internet, the better you're going to be at a game.
No.
It doesn't give you that much of an advantage over a certain point, I'd say.
I'd say once you reach 50 megabit, I think, it's diminishing returns as you go higher. Yeah,
and I mean, the other part is latency as well. Like, depending on if you're on, like, fiber to the cabinet, for instance, and how far the exchange is away from you, that can have an effect. I'm really lucky. I've got fiber to my property. Actually, a direct fiber cable comes in. Not like Virgin, where it goes coaxial. Mine's fiber straight into the ONT, which is a bit like a modem. So I can get gigabit both ways with, like, a flick of a switch. And lots of money. But, yeah, so that gives you kind of a general idea. But, yeah, there's not, like... okay, 50 megabit up and down, and then you go up to 500 megabit. Oh, I'm going to be so much of a better gamer in online games because my latency is lower, this, that, and the other. You're talking really, really negligible differences. Okay, and lastly, 3000 versus 4000 series price to performance ratio. I mean, when we reviewed the 4000 series, I think, yeah, we ended up putting in the performance per dollar charts and things like that. So you're best off have a look at that and just sort of see... because again, there's so many cards in the 3000 series. Are we talking the sort of low, mid, high? I'd like to think if you're talking about 3000 to 4000, you're talking about high because there is only the 4090, the 4080 and the 4070 Ti, 4080 edition. So yeah, it's a tricky one. Obviously, you're always going to have that newer product is going to be faster. Newer product is going to cost more money. That's just that's economics, I guess, at the end of the day. So you're always going to have that, but then that doesn't necessarily mean that the older product is bad. It just might be lacking some of the newer features. Like we've seen, next generation ray tracing, DLSS 3, AV1, efficiency to a degree per watt and stuff like that. But then performance-wise, yeah, you can get a 3080 Ti comparatively for lower price than the 4080.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a tricky one to answer, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't really give a... when it comes to prices of GPUs, it's so hard to give a definitive answer because they're always changing. Yeah,
they're up and down. Even now, like they're not as bad as what they were last year, but they're still up, down, all around and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it definitely makes it tricky. Even by the time of filming this video and it being released in a couple of days' time, prices are going to change. So I wouldn't like to say, oh yeah, it's definitely this right now.
Yeah, like AMD and NVIDIA are both currently... in product launches. They're going through releasing new stuff. So as those things come out and be announced, which at the time of filming, nothing as of yet.
No, obviously really. the biggest thing that people are talking about is the 4060 series. And
yeah, and as soon as that comes out, prices are going to be all over the place again. So how do we answer?
We can't. And with that, we're going to leave it there. That concludes part 3 of the Q&A. There will not be a part 4. 3 is enough. Each of these videos is like 30 to 40 minutes long. Hopefully you guys enjoyed these videos. If you haven't seen part 1 and 2, definitely check them out. They are on the channel. Obviously published before part 3. Makes sense, right? We are now going to get prepared for a live stream for our Patreons. So obviously you guys watching this now, you would have missed that, but we will be doing one a month where we will chew the fat of our Patreons and go through, you know, the latest tech news and stuff like that. As well as answer more questions. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, a like and a sub to the channel would be amazing. And yeah, if you want to see more of these Q&A type content pieces, then definitely let us know in the comment section below. And if you do want to join our Patreon family, then definitely do that. Behind the scenes stuff, live Q&A, exclusive benefits on Discord and things like that as well. And we are doing a Patreon meetup in April where you get to come here and look at all the cool stuff, and we go camping in a field, and yeah, it should be good fun. It was good fun last time, so can't see why it wouldn't be this year. Hopefully lots more people come as well. With that, I think that's it. You done? Because I'm done. Yeah, see you in the next one, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.